Let me tell you about the inspector on a power trip. Hey guys, it's Brad from ProbateHouseGuy.com. So I have a podcast over on ProbateHouseGuy.com if you want to go check that out. I am a real estate investor. I specialize in the world of probate and inheritance properties. I actually have a very unique way of getting probate inheritance deals all over the country that's a little bit different than how most people do probate deals. So if you're interested in learning more about that or maybe becoming one of our partners, go visit ProbateHouseGuy.com to learn more. All right, so let's talk about the inspector who made our life miserable and costs us a lot of money. So we had a deal that we bought in the middle of last year to do a rehab. It was a big rehab. We did a complete rehab. Literally everything in this place is new. We bought the house. It was actually already gutted down to the studs. This house was a double wide, actually. I do a decent amount of double wides and mobile homes, manufactured homes, I guess I should call them. And this particular house, because it was kind of on a main road, and because we were doing an extensive amount of work to this house, like we were going to be changing the exterior. We weren't just like painting it. Like literally we re-sided the whole thing. We put new windows, new doors, a new roof. Everything is new on this place except for like the framing. Like everything's new. So we pulled permits on this to do the right thing. And we did this in a county where there is a lead inspector. I'm not going to mention what county. I'm not going to mention names. But let's just say that this inspector has a reputation for being a big, giant pain in the rear end. And let's say that person is on a little bit of a power trip. We started this project, and this rehab was in Georgia, where I live. I do deals all over the country, but this one was in Georgia. And this particular deal, we needed to get all the different types of permits, right? We even had to bring in temporary power because the old power was kind of sketchy, right? So we had to get a temp power pole in there, blah, blah, blah. In the state of Georgia, since COVID, you are allowed to use third-party inspectors. Typically, it's an engineering company or a third-party inspection company. You typically just have to sign an affidavit at the beginning saying that you're going to be using third-party, and you basically have to use those third-party inspectors through the entire time. So that is the route that we chose to do. Now, ultimately, the inspection building department still has to sign off on the inspections, but really all they typically do is they will just put they'll put the engineer letter in their file and they'll mark that box and check it off, right? Basically, all the liability at that point goes on to the engineering company rather than the building department. And obviously, the engineering company has to follow the codes and all that stuff. So in this particular case, we tried to do that, but the lead building inspector was being a pain in the butt. And basically, and mind you, he's not supposed to do this, right? We, at this point, like we could probably sue him for basically breaking the rules and breaking the law, because the law says that they passed a law or whatever that allows us to do this. It says that we're allowed to do that. And he was almost denying us our privilege because I've been around here for a long time, and these are his exact words. Sometimes they miss things. For real, dude. Yeah, you miss things too. Like nobody's perfect, right? We try to use this company and we fill out all the paperwork, He says, well, I need to go have a meeting at the property with you and the engineering firm. It's like, why? Like, why? We haven't done this on any other like, why do you need to do this, right? So then he does that. Well, then he has the meeting. He wants to schedule the meeting. And then he says, well, hey, I'm going out on leave because I'm having surgery. I'm going to be out for the next 7 weeks. Because I'm getting whatever replaced. I don't remember what it was, right? Knee or hip or shoulder. I don't remember what it was, right? I'm having surgery. We said, okay, well, since you're going to be out, can you assign one of your other inspectors to, help us through this process? No, I can't. Well, why can't you? You're going to be gone for 7 weeks. Like we got to keep this project going. No, because we need to have a meeting with the engineering company, and you're going to need to do it here in the next week before I go out on leave. And it's like, well, the engineer that does this is on vacation this week, so he can't meet you this week. And I was on vacation that week, and it's like, I can't meet you this week. And like, why are you doing this? Like, just assign one of your other people. So anyways, needless to say, the property had to sit at a standstill with nothing happening for 7 weeks. And then he comes back from his leave and meets us out of the property the following week. And he was like, oh, this property, you need to tear this. You didn't need to tear this place down. Trust me, it was not that bad. I've seen way worse than this. You need to tear this house down and blah, blah, blah. The reality is he didn't want a mobile home there. We didn't want a double wide. But again, this is a 1994 double wide on a permanent foundation. It's really not built that much differently than a stick-built house, with the exception of having the metal frame underneath, and the difference is usually the electrical, the plumbing, HVAC, but we changed all that stuff anyways. He comes back, and at first he was telling us one thing, and then he meets with the engineer, and the engineer's like, why am I here? Like, what's the problem here? So the engineer looks at the place, and he's like, all looks good to me. Let me know when you need, rough-in. Let me know when you need this. Like, why am I here? So then the lead inspector's like, all right, fine, I'll let you use them, but I still have to go and inspect the property in order to sign off. What's the point of using them if you just have to sign off anyways? And we had already signed all the paperwork. We had already, had the agreement with the engineering company to do all this. So basically, we had to pay for the engineering company to do their inspection, and then he would not approve of their inspection until he personally went out at each inspection after they were done and walked through it himself, and then he would put the paper in his file and check that box and pass it in the system. He's not supposed to do this. Like, he's supposed to just take the letter and move on, but he was a pain in the butt. So then we do this through all the inspections, blah, blah, blah. And then we get to the final inspection, and engineering company found two very minor things at the end of the project, right? One of the minor things was we forgot to put a handrail, a graspable handrail on the back deck steps, because the steps had, basically code says if there's more than 3 risers, you need a handrail. Well, we had, or is it 3 or more risers, you need a handrail. We had 3 risers coming down off the back steps of the house. So we missed the handrail there. And there was one other, inside one of the cabinets, they wanted us to foam up one of the penetrations. Those are the only 2 things on a final, which, if you've ever done a final inspection, you're going to fail things. Like, you're going to inevitably miss things and fail some stuff, and that's okay. And you just fix them, and they come back and they sign you off. We only failed 2 things on the engineer final inspection. So they came back, they re-inspected, and then we had dude come back and do his thing. It took him a week to get back out there. We were ready to put, in fact, we went ahead and listed it out on the market and just said, CO pending. Because we did have to go through, do the whole thing. We replaced everything in this house: the HVAC, the plumbing, the electric, the flooring, we drywalled the whole place. The windows are new, the decks are new, the doors, like literally everything is brand new in this house. So finally he comes back and he looks at it, and then he starts trying to call some other things out and just be a butthole. And it's like, look, the engineers looked at all this, like all this is good. So then he made us fix like one more thing that the engineer didn't care about. And he finally passed us like 2 weeks later. And it was the most miserable experience ever. But I'm saying this because there are building inspectors, and this is not a dig at all building inspectors, because I've worked with some fantastic building inspectors in all different municipalities, and some of them are great. A contractor and an inspector relationship should be like a mutually beneficial relationship. I want to make sure that I'm building a good product, and I want to make sure that, we're on the same page. Well, some of them are just on a power trip, and they can make your life a living hell. And they just do it because they're on a power trip, and then they're the gatekeeper and they hold the keys, and you can't pass go without their approval. And that's the sad part. And that exists everywhere in the country. There are building inspectors out there who operate that way. And it's unfortunate, because you know what that leads to? That leads to me not wanting to pull permits on my jobs, because I don't want to go through that miserable process to get this thing approved because that guy in that county is an a-hole. I don't want to, so I sometimes we'll do jobs where we don't permit things because of that very reason. But our jobs will all be done to code. And if someone went and inspected it, we'll pass with flying colors. That's also why we use third-party engineers on a lot of stuff rather than going through the building department, depending on where we're at, because it's easier to go through the engineering company and we have to deal with a lot less BS and a lot less cockiness than going through the guy over there. So if you're doing a project and you're doing a flip or rehab or whatever you're doing, make sure that you know who to deal with at the building department. Make sure that you get referrals from people about how to deal with that person. Unfortunately, many of these people, you're going to have to kind of stroke their ego a little bit in order to get past. And that's sad and unfortunate that we have to do that in this day and age, that there are people that are government employees who are on that power trip that, you know, are just giving you a hard time. So if you're doing projects, ask around. There are some municipalities here where I live in the Atlanta area where I will not do projects there. One of which is East Point. And many other investors that I know and contractors that I know will voice the same opinion as me. We don't touch East Point because they are the biggest pain in the rear end ever and the most difficult people to work with ever. We don't touch it. I won't even do a deal down there. If I get a deal in East Point, it's wholesaling 100% of the time. I won't touch it because I've done projects down there and I don't ever want to do another project in that area ever again. And it's sad because, like, this is why areas don't change, because the building department and the inspectors are such a pain in the butt to work with that no one wants to work there. So then they don't do anything there. And then the areas just continue to be blighted. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the reality of the situation. So rambling again, I know. I like to ramble a lot. Hey, it's Brad from ProbateHouseGuy.com. Go check out the Probate House Guy podcast. You can also go check out the rest of our YouTube channel. Got a lot of great, helpful content. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I've got actually a really unique way that I do probate deals all over the country that's a little bit different than the traditional fashion that most people are used to. And I actually work with partners all over the U.S. who share the same values as I do, and they get deals directly from us. So if you're interested in working together and learning more about that, go to ProbateHouseGuy.com to learn more. Thanks again for checking out this video. I'm Brad. Have a great day. Bye-bye.